An article from the New York Times entitled "To Fall in Love with Anyone Do This" has been circling around based on the studies of psychologist Arthur Aron, who had attempted a study in which he had two heterosexual, male and a female, meet each other in a lab, ask each other 36 questions, and then later stare into each other's eyes. And that had apparently been successful because one of the pairs ended up getting married. And the writer of this article attempted the same, of course, not under lab conditions, in a bar condition, and she had already met her partner that she was talking about. It just seems very improbable to me that this would ever work.
It's not that, it doesn't seem that improbable to me. You know, we think of attraction and love as this sort of mysterious, ineffable thing that we sometimes just kind of get a sense of or feel or intuit. Mm-hmm. But human psychology is in some ways pretty predictable and pretty understandable. We know that just being exposed to someone else will increase our liking of them. It's called the mere exposure effect.
I'm liking you guys more right now.
Oh, Phil.
Great. You know, I think people are making more of it than it is. As you were saying, this thing is getting spread around, and I think that's kind of a bold statement in the title.
It's a very bold statement.
But one thing I do respect about the writer, she didn't reveal until the end if it worked, and she was a little kind of humble about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's if anything, take this as a lesson as, hey, you should communicate if you're in a relationship, be vulnerable, learn about each other. I think it really tells you, if you look at the questions that you're supposed to ask.
I have the questions.
Let's ask each other some questions.
Why don't you two do this?
So to explain, the idea behind this experiment was these people went into the room and they were given a pre-selected set of questions to ask each other that required them to become progressively more intimate and more vulnerable as they went. So you might start with like, what's your favorite color? You might end with, what is your greatest fear in life?
Well, in the first set, we have a question like, when was the last time you sung to yourself, to someone else? Which seems pretty innocent, right?
Right.
And kind of fun.
And then we move on to the second set. What is your most treasured memory? What do you value in a friendship? What is your most terrible memory? Just a little bit more personal. Set 3, tell your partner something you like about them already. What, if anything, is too serious to be joked about? Share an embarrassing moment in your life. When did you last cry in front of another person or by yourself? Make 3 we statements. For instance, we are both feeling amorous? I don't know. That was an example for me.
Are we now?
No, that was...
When was the last time you cried by yourself, Phil?
Well,
I was watching a commercial for a card.
Oh my gosh.
No. But this is... I feel like recently there was somewhat of an experiment done by OkCupid in which they suggested to people that they were stronger matches for each other than they actually were, and that those people would usually act upon it and talk to each other more than they would if they had been told the actual information. So I'm wondering if the power of suggestion is part of this? Like the two people on the date had said, like, well, we could fall in love.
I think there could be something to that. I think possibly a bigger thing is, in the act of sharing this much about yourself with a complete stranger, and in the act of making sustained eye contact, I think the instructions were to hold your eye contact for 4 minutes.
That sounds like
which is a long time, right? You might get sort of physiologically aroused, right? Your heart rate increases, your pupils dilate, your skin becomes more conductive, all these things that suggest that we are in a state of physiological arousal. And it's very easy to mistake physiological arousal for one reason and apply it to a different reason.
Oh, no one confuses love and lust.
Right. So,
like
so this is actually other studies that Arthur Aron did directly speak to this. So he would put people on a really scary, shaky bridge and make them cross. So if you're on a scary bridge that you think you might fall through, your heart will start racing. You'll get physiologically aroused, right? You'll get excited. At the end of the bridge, he would put an experimenter there with a clipboard. And they would just ask them some like innocuous questions. And the people who crossed the scary bridge were more likely to ask the experimenter for a date than the people who crossed a non-scary bridge, right? So they mistook their physiological arousal from being scared for attraction. Does that make sense?
I think I may have been tricked into something like this once.
So if you're really scared sharing yourself, and most of us are probably a little bit uncomfortable sharing ourselves in this way with strangers, we might mistake that kind of arousal for love and attraction.
So I think there is that angle on this, but then there's also just the pragmatic relationship angle on just basic communication. Some of these questions, I'm sure there are married couples out there that haven't had these types of conversations that level of understanding. I just think it's important
I
to
think my
to do
parents
both.
would fail most of these. Like, I don't know, to each other. That's interesting to think of, though. Like, so on one hand, we have the sort of confused feelings, and the other we have, well, communication is important, which is, I guess, it's something you could just tell anyone.
I do. I
And eye
mean,
contact.
honestly, when reading this, I kind of loved it. I thought it was a great way of just. I wish they'd gone into more of what Jason was talking about here, about that kind of physiological and just those underlying things that can cause this to happen. But maybe that gets rid of the magic of it. I don't know.
I had a guy take me on a date to one of those, like, around Halloween, how they turn amusement parks into scary amusement parks at night.
That is a fantastic empirically derived idea.
I was holding on to him the whole time because I'm a scaredy cat and I can't handle scary situations.
Roller coasters?
Yeah.
These are all great first date
Guys.
ideas if you want to trick your date.
Fool the people in your life into loving you, right?
That's
science.
the moral of this story.
So I work a lot with spiders. You're saying I should show more people my
You
spider
should show up
photos.
to pretty girls with spiders and put
Right.
them in their faces.
Let's fall in love. Let's answer some questions.
Is that a spider in your pocket?
So this is how you trick people into falling in love with you, apparently? Maybe not. What do you think of this idea of falling in love, the idea of communicating, confusion, maybe just being suggested? It's kind of crazy to me, but would it work? Let me know what you think below in the comments, and please be sure to subscribe.